You won't come with?
With you? Or with you?
Whatever.
Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'll be breaking down the Expanse Season 6 Episode 5. Why We Fight is the penultimate episode of the final season, and last week's episode was where the end started to set in, and this week's was the one that made me believe that they were going to make these last ones count. A lot of episode 5 is setting the table, but when you have pieces like these in play, you can't really go wrong. I'll be recapping everything that happened, including what I think are some of the richest character exchanges of the series, and I'll discuss where things are at going into the finale right after this quick spoiler warning. If you haven't watched the Expanse Season 6 Episode 5, then this video won't be for you, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. On Laconia, we pick up right after Kara wheeled her little brother Zan's dead body into the woods looking to see if the strange dogs could fix him. She falls asleep briefly, and when she wakes to sounds of the search party looking for her, she realizes that his body is gone. After they pass her by, she hears the dogs in the distance, and when she finds them, she sees that they did fix Zan, and I would say fix in quotation marks because he's no longer dead. He is visibly a lot creepier though, with dark black eyes and strange movements, and from what he says, it sounds like he can see things that she can't. Overall, he still mostly seems like her little brother though, and she's just happy he's back. She gives him a hug saying the dogs fixed him, and the camera pulls away as the score takes an ominous turn. There is one more installment to this story, so I think it makes more sense to look into more of what's happening here after we see that in the finale. The episode proper opens with the launch of a torpedo. As it zooms out, you see the Sol Ring and the Free Navy sentry ships being overwhelmed and destroyed in the MCRN sneak attack. Admiral Carino is commanding the attack and asks for a wideband channel to talk to Medina Station before they transit the ring to take control of the slow zone. She calls for the immediate and unconditional surrender of the station. They have it target locked, and she gives them the chance to avoid further hostilities. When they don't get a response and she's preparing to fire their torpedoes, they start to pick up activity on the ring station's surface. They don't have time to fully understand what's happening. One after the other, each of the ships in their fleet are hit with railgun rounds, destroying them all. R.I.P. Carino. On the Pella, Marco is watching a news feed of an uprising against the Free Navy on Iapetus Station. He's worried that it could sow doubt and turn the tide of support away from the Free Navy after Drummer's raid and statement against them. Rosenfeld acknowledges that if this trend continues, they could lose, but says this is why the only thing they should be focused on now is getting to Medina. With 1,300 systems and hundreds of colonies under your thumb, as much metal as we can mine, as many shipyards as we can build, anyone that wants access to that will have to ask you. Drummer raided a defenseless supply depot. If she wants to act like that makes her a hero, who cares? She gets a notification about the failed MCRN attack at the ring gate and says this calls for a celebration. On the Zenobia, Avasarala and her people are being briefed about the railguns in the ring space. They learn that the railgun is a Martian design, but it's made out of metal that they've never seen before. Bobbie brings up that the Free Navy traded protomolecule for Martian gunships and weapons, and connects the dots that maybe this was part of that deal. It turns out that the guns are mounted on titanium bands laid right along the surface. This is how they solved the problem of the station being impenetrable. It makes for a perfect placement because the station effectively has infinite inertia. It doesn't move whenever they fire the guns, and with 6 of them placed around the surface, the station can rain hell on any point inside the ring space. It is the perfect defense setup, and one they didn't anticipate because they never realized they could use the station in that way. They discount using a fast nuke attack to destroy Medina because the last time they detonated nukes near the station, it powered up and nearly destroyed the entire solar system. There is a chance to intercept the Pella before they get there, but the window is closing fast. Plus, it would require them to abandon Ceres and let everyone there die, and there's still a pretty fair chance that they wouldn't be able to win. The military commanders from the UN and Mars are both in favor of this plan, but Avasarala is hesitant. She tells them that they'll have her decision soon and dismisses them. Bobbie stays behind, and Avasarala explains that she refused to go along with the strike on Medina, and she wonders if she's gone too soft. Was she trying too hard to be good when she should have been ruthless? Bobbie starts out trying to be diplomatic, but things escalate to where she says, fine, maybe you have gone a bit soft, which might not be so bad in small doses, but now is not the time for self-pity bullshit. It's time to keep your eyes on the enemy and wait for the next time they slip up, because I still think we're the good guys, and I'd rather do a little less soul-searching and a lot more fighting back. Avasarala definitely takes in what she's saying, but tells her to go do something else and dismisses her like the others. On the Roci, we get one more character return via a cameo by Elvi, who is talking to Naomi about the missing ship data. This was the person that Holden mentioned that might know more about what was going on there. They notice that there's a mass energy threshold that precedes or perhaps triggers the disappearance events. This means that Holden was right. Anytime anyone goes through a ring, they're taking a major risk. She asks Holden about how he can sense them getting angrier when he transits, and asks if he thinks that they might be trying to get out. He doesn't know, but says that the artifact on Illis proves they can affect things in our world, and thinks Avasarala needs to see this data right away. As they're talking, Naomi sees a news feed that shows Drummer and her fleet bringing aid from the supply depots to Ceres. And on the Tynan, we get one of the unintentionally funniest scenes of the episode. Drummer's communicating with Ceres, stressing that they have food and fuel and they're just trying to give it to them for free. The UN officer she's talking to says that they need to take control of and search her ships for Free Navy partisans before they can accept the cargo, which seems like standard procedure, but if you think about it, what would that mean for characters like Walker? He starts to tell her what the consequences would be if she decides not to submit to the terms, and we see Avasarala cut in and talk to her directly. She says they'll be allowed to dock. She brings up Fred Johnson and how he spoke well of her, says it's nice to finally meet her, and tries to stress their connection with Free Navy being both of their enemies. Drummer says that Fred spoke well of her too, and that they didn't agree on everything. She says a century of oppression made Marco Inaros inevitable, and if it wasn't him, there would have been another. Avasarala tries to set up a face-to-face meeting, but Drummer says the Belters on Ceres are hungry and she has food. She came for them, not for her. Later, Joseph learns that the gel to regrow his arm isn't working, and that they'll have to remove his new limb. While the doctor is talking, Drummer gets a call on her hand terminal from Naomi. She goes to the deck to listen to the message, which is asking for a meeting, and she decides not to respond. On the way to Medina, Filip hears the announcement about the victory at the ring gate and that they're going to celebrate by passing out the rare earther brandy they liberated from Ceres for the crew. He goes for his shift to find out that Tadeo is in the brig, and when he goes there, he learns that it's because he tried to contact his brother on Ceres, which could have given away their position. Later, it's clear that Rosenfeld's plan to raise morale is working. She has a conversation with Marco, who says that the United Fleet has size, but they have the numbers. So no matter what, they can't engage with them everywhere at once. He believes that they can dictate how their forces will be spread, and that means that they'll probably be able to make it to Medina. She shows him what Filip did in the mess to try to get them to reconcile, and then we see his son taking a risk, checking about Tadeo's brother for him. He does find out that he's dead and goes to deliver the news, and he finds out that Tadeo was on the crew that planted the bombs and rigged the docks to explode, so he holds himself responsible. He's devastated because they were told no Belters would get hurt, and he thought he was only going to be striking a blow against the inners. On the Zenobia, Avasarala tells Monica about the information she got from Prax and how he risked his life and family getting it to them because he thought it might help restore Earth's ability to grow food. Her initial reports suggest he might be right. We learn that people are responding well to the Lucky Earther piece, even though its star is getting some death threats. Avasarala gives herself an injection of a stimulant before seeing Holden. On her way out, Monica asks to set up an interview with him, and he says never ever 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 again as he turns it down with a smile. He's there to tell Avasarala what they discovered about the ships going Dutchman, or disappearing at the ring gates, and explains about the mass energy threshold. He prompts her to call him the most naive person she's ever met when he says that he thinks that she should share this information with Marco and the Free Navy. But he counters this by saying that the threat from whatever is doing this isn't going to go away, and anytime anyone uses the rings, it could make things worse. She shows him the pressing issue, the railguns on the ring station, and explains that they destroyed 6 Martian warships in seconds. We can't afford the luxury of worrying about the future until we end this war. This leads to her asking about how well he knows Drummer, and her explaining that she wants a Belter ally who is respected by her own kind to fight on their side against Inaros. She explains why she needs this to happen, and he explains why she'd never go along with it. She brings up torturing the Belter in Season 1, and how the Belt does see her that way because that is who she was. She tells him it's not who she is now. On the station, Amos is loaded in the bar after coming back from the brothel and runs into Bobbie. She finds out that he's not sure if he wants to return to the Roci at all. He says, "I don't know what the fuck I'm doing out here anymore," and she responds that they're fighting a war, which he questions, saying, "'Cause war is when you try to kill the other guy when you get the chance," and he tells her the truth about Holden disarming the nuke, that he did it because he saw Naomi's kid on the Pella. She takes that in and laughs because I suppose at this point, what else could she actually do? He says that sometimes it feels like he's trying to get us killed, and then a couple of times he saves the whole human race, so I guess it balances out. When he says war is the wrong place for good men, she says good or bad, it's the same place for everyone. In the end, the only thing that matters is fighting for who is covering your flank. Doesn't matter if they're saints or assholes, they're your people. They watch your back and you watch theirs, or you've got nothing. Here he has his epiphany, deciding to go back to the ship right after he hits the brothel again. And there we see the clip I played at the beginning of the video play out. Elsewhere on the station, now that Joseph had his new limb removed, he tells Drummer he's sorry, the fight's not over and he can't help her anymore. As he passes back out, Michio tells her that she'll stay there with him. Drummer is opposed to the idea because the Inners control the station, and Michio makes the distinction that they're leaving. They'll put up with the Inners on the station because they know she'll never give up the fight with Marco now, and they really can't help her. Drummer says that she never loved them because they were fighters, she loved them because they were builders, and she hoped to build something together. And she walks away feeling the weight of the decisions she's made. On the way back to the ship, she arrives at a checkpoint, and even though she doesn't want to skip the line, she's encouraged to do so because she's pre-cleared. On the way, she passes Sandrani, who takes a video asking how it feels to be the Inner's favorite pet. And if that's not enough, when she returns to the Tynan, she finds Naomi waiting for her. She does apologize for just dropping in and says it's good to see her. Naomi compliments her on her ship and says that she wants to meet her family. Drummer explains that they're all gone now. Somewhat brutally, she explains that Oksana and Berthold left after she turned on the Free Navy to save the Rocinante. Serge was executed, and now Michio and Joseph have decided to stay on Ceres so they don't have to continue to pay for the choices she's made. They have an emotional back and forth where Naomi somewhat apologizes, and Drummer, seeing through it, asking why she really came there. At first she says, "I wanted to see you," and she gets the quick response, "You know me well enough to know that silence meant I didn't want to be seen." She gets to the truth, saying that Holden asked her to talk to her for Avasarala. She wants them to fight by her side against Marco. And you see Drummer's face drop as she's listening, and she turns around saying, "You should leave. You come to me running errands for the Inners." It gets heated as Drummer asks her how she can choose their side. Naomi says she chose her own side, and that gets a quick rebuttal that Avasarala and her people are no better than Marco. Everything else aside, Drummer's choices are down to waiting for the bounty to go high enough that someone will kill her, her family is already gone, or in her words, she can put a collar around her neck and hand the Inners the leash. She feels like there's no place in this universe for her, and neither one of them can envision a different way to move forward. Naomi says all we can do now is stand by the people we love. What else is there? And this is a little bit tone deaf, and Drummer says, "Fuck you, you self-righteous shit." But faced with the inevitable, she starts to cry and they hold each other. From there, we see Avasarala moving through the station on foot. She comes around the corner in dramatic fashion and comes face to face with Drummer in public out in the open where everyone can see. Drummer didn't believe she would actually follow through on leaving her ship, so on some level this has impressed her, but she makes the point that the system is filled with the graves of belters who trusted inners. Avasarala fires back that her planet is now covered with the bodies of people who paid the price for that. She's confident that Marco will get a lot more belters killed before this is over, and she needs Drummer to help her bring it to an end. The sooner it's done, the fewer people will die on both sides. Kamina asks if she'll remember the belters who died for her victory after Marco is dead. She can only promise she will, and that she's given belters plenty of reasons to hate her, but none to think that she's a liar. Even though neither of them thought they would see the day that belters would be fighting alongside inners against other belters, they shake hands to form a union and the episode ends there. I think what impressed me most about this episode was that it had to explain a lot of things in dialogue for everything to make sense heading into the finale, but I thought they did a masterful job in balancing things out with such great emotional interactions between characters at different points in the episode. They made the choice to hold back what Marco was really up to, that his master plan shifted to him setting up shop behind the railguns and being in a position where he had resources and the means to build his own fleet to rival the others in the system. I thought the way that they introduced the guns worked, and even though Carino paid the ultimate price, it's one of those situations where the information they gathered was vital, since that was going to happen to someone. The Free Navy got all of the materials and the guns from the Laconia Gate, so it seems like they were able to fortify the ring space in secret. Drummer's statement to Avasarala about the inner's behavior making Marco inevitable is really important, and I think they did a fair job of presenting where she was coming from. I guess it gets easy to overlook because the short season requires her to rethink this core belief in the same episode, but it's key that no one on the inner side of things really tries to dispute her claims. The grievances she has, and the belt in general have, are legitimate, and that makes things complicated even when violent extremists followed through with a massive terrorist attack on Earth. I think it goes without saying that where this episode really excels is in the two characters in a room talking to each other department. And it just had so many emotionally charged exchanges that it's crazy that they all happened in one episode. The way that Amos is working through the balance between thinking Holden was trying to get them killed and saving the entire human race was perfect. And the whole interaction between him and Bobbie was a highlight reel. It's a fitting end to his internal conflict about what he's doing out there, because they have been through too much to throw it all away at this point over one decision. And as the X-Ray episode points out, Holden never really went looking to be in the middle of everything in the first place. The Naomi and Drummer reunion was definitely the hardest hitting in the season and possibly the series. And there's so much history to keep track of. I think here is where the X-Ray episodes really added to the experience. You have to think back to the end of last season and everything that led up to Drummer turning against the Free Navy and what it cost her. In the end, she essentially did that because of Naomi. And when she's backed into a corner here, she brings that up, that it's all tied back to those feelings. So when Naomi tells her that the only thing left to do is fight for the people you love, she knows that's the truth, but it's still a bitter pill to swallow. And there is a ton more to get into, and I could talk about this forever, and we'll try to do that when we get into the live stream in the next couple of days. There were a couple of things that sat wrong with me as a book reader the first time I watched this. Even though I love the Elvi character, she's one of my favorite POVs in the books, I felt a little disappointed that it felt like it was her that figured out what was going on at the ring gates rather than Naomi, and a couple of other small things jumped out, but they didn't take away from the overall experience of watching the episode, and on rewatch it made a lot more sense. I think that we're in a good place to leave this one, so let me know in the comments what you thought about the episode, how you're feeling about things going in. The table is pretty set up. I feel like there's probably anxiety going around for show-only people, but they're hitting the character beats and things are unfolding, so just hang in there. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.